Hello and welcome back to the RiftGuides WildRift video. Today we are going to take a look at a Zeri gameplay from the Chinese server. This champion has more builds than I have hair on my head, and it's absolutely insane how people make this champion work with the most crazy builds possible. There's AD variants, AP variants, hybrid variants, like literally anything. Even though I don't always agree with the things they build, they're still showcasing aspects of the game that are very insane and that actually do function, and how they work and what they can do. So here we are going to see a Zeri game with a Janna into a Nautilus, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw an Ezreal for a second. In the bottom left you see a build, and in case you're wondering, why are you going for these items? Trinity Force provides you with tankiness and a lot of bonus damage. Since your first ability has relatively low cooldown, you can continuously proc it for the Spellblade passive. The defensive boots also make it very easy for you to play, because you'll be very close to the enemy playing. Zeri during the laning phase is relatively weak. She can only realistically move up and use her first ability to just poke out the enemy, and you really don't trade that much. And therefore often running exhaust isn't really a thing, because you don't really want to engage into any shenanigans. And if this hook connected, it would have been a really bad time for the Janna, being very cocky here. And again, kind of confusing that she isn't playing the lane so far. And yeah, but generally speaking, the Zeri doesn't really have to fear anything if there's a minion in front of you. The Nautilus can only realistically hurt you if there's no minions, or he can just flash auto attack you. As long as the hook is on cooldown, he can basically do nothing and you can just bully him. But his HP bar is relatively deceptive, because even if he's on low HP, if he hits you with a hook, you might just immediately die. As per usual, all of this gameplay is provided to you by the channel in the description below. They offer very high quality replays, perfect gameplay, and it's just very nice to see different perspective, different everything on the Chinese server compared to the global server. Generally, when it comes to laning, if you play a ranged champion into a melee champion, such as Janna into a Nautilus or Janna into an Alistar, you want to bully them as good as you can during the early game, because you want them to be low HP. Here the Nautilus finally hits the hook, and that is one of the biggest issues I was talking about. If the hook connects, even though the Nautilus doesn't have much HP, you're in for a very bad time. And look, since Zeri can't shoot through people unless she has a third ability, they're just standing in front of each other when the third ability times out, and therefore just blocking all auto attacks. As a consequence, nothing can happen. Even if you're low HP, you can't really die, and this is all facilitated due to Janna being hooked. If this didn't happen, none of this would have occurred in the first place. The biggest issue here is that the enemy is now snowballing, and that is something you really don't want to have. And as a Janna, you can't really leave your Zeri alone in lane, because they'll push in the wave and then dive you, which luckily though, Zeri is very good into, because she can just jump the wall, but she loses all the gold. And as she's a very high, very scaling heavy champion, she doesn't want to be gold starved. In the top left brush, there might be a Nautilus in there, yeah, and he is, so they can't approach, so they respect this and stay at relative range. But now the enemy has a big XP lead, using this pressure to push and let the Nautilus rotate, getting some deep vision, going for more offensive trades because they can just do so. The lane is now in a state where you don't want it to be, but it's often expected in Zeri lanes, because you can't really fight back, and it's mostly support determined. Bot lane in general is mostly determined by the support. Who has the stronger support or the better play on the support has very big influence over most of the matchups in the game. But if this lane continues to basically do nothing, nothing occurs, then it's very favorable for the Zeri. Because as the game goes on, Zeri will deal more damage than the Ezreal, because the Ezreal only pokes people in front of him, whereas the Zeri will make sure to hit every single one in the backline. Ooh, the enemy comes in for a gank, a nice attempt by the Rengar, he just fully heals up again, and if anyone hits the Janna that is rooted on the tower, it's an absolute L angle. The Morgana comes around the corner and this play is now ended. The moment the Zeri gets access to Trinity Force though, she finally has some damage, but most of the damage will actually come from Trinity Force compared to anything else. And coming back to the idea, Zeri is a very powerful champion if the enemy team has a front line that you can reliably hit to then have the chaining auto attacks from your ult into the back line. Another thing that's very neat about Zeri is depending on which build you go for, like the AD or AP or hybrid variant, you can be a tac nuke, like a tactical nuke, jumping into the backline, immediately exploding with your ultimate into a full combo. The Trinity Force is now secured, skipping out on the boots early, making sure to have the spike. The Phage is substituting the boots to some extent, because the Phage on hit grants you movement speed. And with this, the biggest spike possible on the first item spike is achieved. It's a very nice item, which is often underrated, but sometimes also overrated, because it really depends on how the fights go. It's a good standalone item because it provides you with HP, attack speed, a lot of stats, as well as a Spellblade passive. So in a 1v1 scenario, for example, against the Ezreal, this will be the difference now into just stomping him. Because if you ever get to hit him, he just can't survive. He needs to poke you out in order to win, and if that isn't possible, he will just lose. Because look at the damage traits. But the issue is the Ezreal has higher range. Oh no, Ezreal. Ooh, very close. But one of the biggest issues is that the Ezreal has superior range, so you have to get close. And if you get too close to him, he might hit you with a combo. And now the Corki comes in, maybe you get a trade. Oh, sadly he was in the he was recalling and not paying close attention and got like reacted a little bit too late. But still, the game is still in a decent spot. The Morgana got the Herald. She gets a lot of gold. She's scaling with the Master Yi. And there's a big skirmish in the jungle, whereas the Zeri is forced to, well, just wait to respawn. And don't get me wrong, like, you'll have many games in which you'll play Zeri and you'll be behind, and that's not the biggest of issues. If you are allowed to scale without dying too much, that is, you can turn the game in late game. The issue is, you need people to hit in front of you, and if the fight is too fast, you can't have an impact. So you realistically need the fights to extend for a certain period of time for you to find super value in. Because if you think about this, as you have the tools to continuously hit the backline as well as the front line through your kit, your champion has crazy damage, and it's very deceptive damage as well. Since you mainly see the damage you deal to the target in front, which is not usually a very high number, but just a combination of very small numbers, but plenty of them, plus the chaining bonus damage from your ultimate, it's very deceptive as it makes you believe that you haven't dealt much damage. But if you take a look at the after-game screen and take a good look at the damage numbers, you'll then see how much damage you actually have dealt. And this is such a nice combination, like Ghost and Ult makes you so unbelievably rapid. And there's another thing that many people don't know. Conqueror actually is substantially worse than Lethal Tempo if you go for maximum damage. Because Zeri, as she gains attack speed, gains bonus damage. And Lethal Tempo provides you with so much attack speed that it outvalues Conqueror. But there are a few things that we need to talk about when it comes to Conqueror versus Lethal Tempo. As you see, Zeri uses spells as well as auto attacks, making it easier for you to stack Conqueror fast. If you believe the fight is about to end fast, or just that like the fights are fast, then Conqueror will outvalue Lethal Tempo because the fight will be over before Lethal Tempo will be stacked, but Conqueror will be stacked before Lethal Tempo is stacked. And then you can just get free kills. Because your ultimate is a Conqueror stack, your second ability, your first ability, and an auto attack, which means it's way faster. But the damage potential, once you have the Lethal Tempo stacked, is unbelievably high. Which is a nice thing about Zeri. Like, your champion, even though you might not believe it, is a very ult-centric champion. He flashes in, going for the Nautilus. He wants to make sure to, oh no, he survives! And now it gets really sketchy, he can't chase after, because if the Nautilus is around the corner, he might just hook you into instant death, might trading his life for it. But now the Nautilus is recalling on a ward, he doesn't know, he goes in for a tap, instantly kills the Nautilus, and now chases after the Ezreal, but he has to be very much aware of the potential of Rengar still lingering around. Whenever you play Zeri, it's not even that rare to just be very sad about the early game. The enemy Nautilus rushed Frozen Heart. That is very toxic towards the Zeri, because it really cuts into your damage. A few things you can also do when playing Zeri. You can use your second ability to scout certain brushes so you don't get surprised by people. You can always hover your third ability close to a wall just in case you get jumped and you respond fast enough, and otherwise just cancel. And when you hit shields, you get a nice shield and some juicy movement speed. And when you play Zeri, it's realistically all about being fast. Your champion needs to be relatively close or fight under certain conditions to be very valuable. And this bonus movement speed will make it so much easier for you to actually deal your damage. Whenever you play Zeri, and for example you play Exhaust, which is often the default choice for AD carries, you will notice that you might be safe, but you find it difficult to deal damage because you can't reach. And this is the biggest issue of this champion. Reaching. If there's no frontline, which I talked about earlier, for you to have chaining auto attacks on, it gets very hard to actually apply your damage. And now we're about to see an absolute tussle in the river here. The Corki package is ready, he pops the ultimate, he starts chaining the auto attacks on the people, he finds the Rengar in the pit, and he's continuously chaining now. It's an absolute mess what is happening. He's now in the rundown mode, he goes behind after, oh, no. They all survive, and coincidentally, which I find very curious, is why did the Corki not use his package differently at the start of the fight? Nicely using his third ability to chase after somebody. But again, why didn't the Corki use the package differently to split the fight early to make sure that they fight in a favorable position rather than using the package to escape? And with Zeri, as you go into the later stages of the game, your damage racks up quite heavily. But you really have to scale. Like, as of this moment, most of her damage really comes from spells and just the ultimate. And even if you go for the AP build, the Nautilus just does this. Oh, that's a nice knockup by the Janna, denying the Yasuo ultimate from the Nautilus ultimate. Good combo. He now picks up the Mortal Reminder, getting more crit already at 50%, soon closing on the 75%. And then going for a typical 100% crit build. The question is, from your perspective, what do you believe? Does the AD version deal more damage or the AP version? Because I personally, I think the AP version with the Riftmaker does more. Because, and here's the reason, enemies nowadays always get plated caps in most games. And if you look at this game, I think it's very likely to assume that the enemy will go for plated steel caps and armor, which in fact they are. So getting an AP profile could have been the play, but again, your team only realistically has Master Yi as an AD or true damage source, whereas all the other people are AP. So then again, they might be able to buy Merc, so is it really a good choice to go AP here? It's kind of a different spot, so yeah, but still. Zeri having the ability to go for multiple builds is something that makes her a lot better, of course. But given her laning phase, and depending on the pace of the game that is dictated by the support and jungle, she might not even get to play before she has scaled, which is the biggest issue from her, or of her, from my perspective. Just yapping randomly. Now the Baron has been prepared, the enemy has the Scuttle Crab, so there's no way of just sneaking it over a wall. Now they have to trap, but the enemy realistically has no reason to come here. And jumping this wall could have been a potential risk. We see the Nautilus in the bottom right there, and all it takes is a well-timed Nautilus ult on the right target, and then the Yasuo ult will spell demise in the near future. But in this case, the Yasuo is on the other side of the map, which will allow them to force the Nashor. They want to bait them towards the Nashor. The Corki Valkyries over the wall again, the Nautilus is caught off guard alone, he just gets continuously knocked up, he just doesn't land anymore, he's a pilot now. And the Zeri goes in, pops the Zonus as the Rengar jumps on her, the Ezreal uses the full combo to the Zeri, but she still survives, the Janna ultimate comes in clutch, and the Rengar dies to the second ability through the tower, perfectly expected and predicted, so he can't do anything, and that spells a free Baron for Zeri's team. Yasuo is now approaching from above with the Ezreal. They're just trying to deal some poke damage, try to get closer with the power of the wind wall, but will they have enough damage to get something done? They go into the pit, but is it enough? It really isn't. It's just inting. The Corki has package here. What does he do? The Corki is just looking. He can't really do anything, and they lose the Baron, and they lose 2 more people trying to defend that Baron. So, what do you guys believe? Do you think it was a very good decision to contest that Baron, even though you should have known that they have a tank that is able to tank it indefinitely as well as enough damage? Or would you believe that they should have just taken sideways, take camp so the enemy can't get multiple positive outcomes? Because right now, they got Baron, they got waves, they got enemy jungle camps, they basically got everything. Ooh, nice prepared trap here. The Rengar is caught off guard alone. The Nautilus is using the ultimate and the Glacial to deny the movement. Rengar pops ultimate now. Needs to be a little bit careful. Luckily, the Rengar is low enough. The red buff is also now spawning as well as the dragon. And the Rengar is completely out of position. As I'm always preaching, make sure to pillage the enemy jungle. The enemy team is now approaching in the jungle as a 3-man squad. The enemy bot, like our bot lane, is getting pushed in. The Corki is dealing some damage over the wall, but it's simply not enough. The entirety of the team is zoning them over the wall. And the Yasuo gets over the wall. The Yasuo is caught in a very bad place, has to flash away. And the enemy team just simply doesn't have enough damage. Now the Rengar is clearing a wave. The Zeri is getting closer, dealing so much damage. And there's the beauty of her when you get all these benefits of the movement speed items. As well as the Janna allowing you to get, like, she turns you into a race car. And with the ultimate coming up again, if the enemy tries anything funky and the Zeri pops the ultimate, it gets interesting. Ooh, that was very close. 100 gold off the Infinity Edge. That's a very sad base, but given the fact that nothing will be happening on the map right now and he has to fix the bot wave, it's very okay to do so. But again, the Janna is getting caught for no reason because she apparently didn't get the memo of the reset, and the Zeri was just lucky that the reset wasn't cancelled by the Ezreal ult. A major spike is now happening with Infinity Edge being obtained. 75% crit, making sure to deal even more damage. Having Eternity Force bonus damage of 200% of your base AD on the Spellblade passive, which means you have it every single time you use your first ability. And take a look at the cooldown. It's not even, it's like 3 seconds, so you can basically spam the Spellblade passive. In this game, however, as well, your third ability is such a big game changer. Having your Zhonya's against the Rengar and basically being one-shot, and your third ability will allow you to get around to places a lot easier. But the Morgana is being picked 44 seconds before the objective spawns. The Rengar hops around with a bowler, and now they are sieging mid lane. The game is now in a very peculiar spot. The Morgana will be a little bit delayed for the objectives, and without the Morgana, they don't have the spell sheet, dealing some extra damage onto the Ezreal, dealing juicy damage. Does the Janna have Harmonic Echoes, so we have some extra added sustain? I don't think so. I didn't see. Oh, she does. Okay, she does. Very good. This is one of the most important items. Zeri as well, with this build, desperately craves getting the blue buff. And he doesn't even take any chances. He hops the wall to make sure he doesn't get caught, and the Janna didn't get the memo again. The Zeri can put herself in such positions as she can jump over walls, but the Janna really can't. The Janna needs to be in a backline position, providing the Zeri with shielding and healing, giving her some space to move in, but never be at the foremost front. The Zeri gets hooked, something that should have never happened. A nice engage, and the Zeri gets caught. This is something that should never happen. The Ornn needed to be here, to be in front, and not the Zeri. This was a little bit cocky, a little bit unfortunate, might even, and maybe the team is able to salvage this play as they're trading 1-for-1, but the entirety of the team is so low that they can't do anything. Maybe the Janna shielding with the Harmonic Echoes will save them, and the Yasuo dies, but the Morgana dies as well. The Ornn is killing everyone. Oh no, the Elder will be slain now. The game is completely turned upside down, and all happened because of one single mistake. Being caught by the Nautilus hook there, being completely crowd controlled by the Yasuo ult, Nautilus hook, Nautilus auto attack, the package over you, like you won't move again. And now they even get the top lane inhibitor, which will enable them to get Nashor in an easier fashion due to the sheer pressure the super minions on this side will now apply. There's also 1.5 minutes left for Elder, and all it takes for the enemy team is now to get a proper setup around Elder to then make sure that they use the Elder buff to get Nashor. And with Nashor they can finally siege. Because if you look at the team, they have a Zeri and a Morgana. If you send in minions and follow your minions, you'll be in for a very bad time because the minions will die so fast and you'll take so much burn damage while you try to siege. So you really need that Nashor or to win a fight to win that game. They're starting up the Nashor, or just did some damage to it. The Corki is dealing some... not even that much damage to the Janna. I think she has some kind of a tank build, I believe, using the Harmonic Echoes as a primary tool to keep up the people. Okay, an ult on the Master Yi happens. He's using Meditate, still has a shield. The Rengar jumps onto the Zeri. The Zeri uses a perfect ultimate to deny them. It's really sloppy right now. The Zeri can't really reach. She has to wait for the enemy team to get closer because she goes over the wall, she just instantly dies. Two side waves are being absolutely horrendous. They're massive waves walking into the base, and the enemy can now play their waiting game. Do they see the people go for the waves? Then it's Nashor time. If the enemy doesn't go for the waves, then they'll lose their base. Oh no, the Rengar might have made a big mistake walking too close. Your flashes over the wall instantly kills the Rengar. Rengar, why did you do this? All you had to do was chill. But the Corki is dealing such absolute insane burn damage. But the Janna keeps the person top, the shielding, the sustain. It is just too close. And now the Yasuo is being picked off. Maybe he dies to the red buff. And he dies to the red buff. And if none of this happened, they could have forced the same fight with On being forced to clear the base wave. There was such a massive minion wave, and all because people got impatient or wanted to go for a pick, which didn't really matter at that point. And now the Nautilus is really trying to stall the game, but it's just not enough. The game will now end with the next minion wave coming in. And yeah, nice gameplay, nice emotes, and as per usual, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and check out in the description below the channel which uploads this beautiful gameplay. And we'll see each other for the next video very soon, but first, let's take a good look at the damage graph. And this was a legendary queue game, so not even normal ranked, but actual, more competitive ranked gameplay. As per usual, you also see different builds here. I didn't even see this yet. Why is there a collector? But yeah, as I said, Zeri can be played with so many different builds. Nicely visually represented and sent to you guys via the channel. And I'm really just happy. If you enjoyed this video, again, leave a like, comment, and please check out their content. See you soon.